Republican leader Noreen Hammond, and I represent the 94th District in the western part of Illinois. I'm honored to serve also as the chief budgeteer for the House Republican Caucus. We're now in the final month of session, and we're here this morning to provide an update on where things stand with the budget, revenue, and the lack of any true meaningful negotiations. We have been having ongoing conversations with the Governor's Office of Management and Budget since he introduced his FY26 budget in February. Our House Republicans have made it clear that we have our fiscal priorities, and we also will vehemently oppose any tax increases to pay for more spending. We've had preliminary discussions with our colleagues, the House Democratic budgeteers. I wouldn't characterize that as any true meaningful discussions. We have broached a few subjects, but pretty much at about a 10,000-foot level. So, but if history serves us correctly, that's a signal that the Democrat majority will go it alone, and they will continue to increase wasteful spending and absolutely continue to raise taxes on hardworking Illinois families and businesses. Despite the 2020 election results, which saw that Illinois voters soundly rejected the progressive income tax, Democrats have once again introduced a constitutional amendment for a progressive income tax. Yesterday, it was reported that progressive Democrats are just beginning their campaign for a graduated income tax hike. And this week, the Illinois Revenue Alliance, AKA the Tax and Spend Alliance, presented a list of tax hikes that would raise taxes by $6 billion, and that does not include the graduated income tax hike. $6 billion in new taxes to pay for taxpayer-funded healthcare benefits for illegal immigrants, more pork projects for Democrats, and more of their wasteful spending on programs. These tax hikes would further damage our economy and drive up the tax burden and the cost of living for Illinois families. I want to focus on what I consider to be the most egregious of these tax hike proposals. That is to raise the estate tax by cutting the exemption in half. That would be from cutting the $4 million exemption to $2 million. It is absolutely ridiculous and unacceptable. Our family farmers struggle enough. It doesn't take a lot of acreage or a lot of equipment to hit a $4 million mark. That's the threshold for this death tax. Our farm families shouldn't have to sell the family farm just to pay for this tax. We should be encouraging and supporting our family farmers, not taxing them to death. I'm sponsoring legislation, House Bill 1457, to triple the state tax exemption to more closely align Illinois with the federal tax exemption. There's bipartisan legislation that's been introduced 2 years in a row to increase the estate tax exemption by 50% for our family farms. And so why would anyone propose cutting this exemption in half at this point? The House Republican Caucus wants to make it perfectly clear. We will not negotiate a budget that includes any tax increases. State government desperately needs structural reforms and to learn to live within its means. We'll continue to stand for our hardworking families and any attempt to increase their taxes. Last year, I suggested that perhaps we needed a line item in the budget for services for the Democratic majority to deal with their compulsion for excessive spending. Maybe it's time we look at that again. Now I'd like to introduce my colleague and my deputy also deputy budgeteer, Amy Ellik.
Thank you. Good morning. I am State Representative Amy Ellik, and I represent a portion of Madison County. And as mentioned, I serve as the deputy budgeteer for the House Republican Caucus. We are 1 month away from the deadline to pass a state budget We have not heard any solutions. So far this spring, we haven't talked about the most important issues affecting Illinois families, like high property taxes and the high cost of living and doing business in Illinois. We knew that this would be a difficult budget year, and we've seen how chaotic this governor's administration and the House Democrats have been with their tactics. Instead of focusing on his political ambition, Governor Pritzker owes it to the citizens of Illinois to come to Springfield and work with us to figure out a budget that works for Illinois and is truly balanced. During the governor's budget address in February, he said he was ready to work with the members of the General Assembly to deliberate and negotiate the final budget. The governor said we have to live within our means. He also said, if you come to the table looking to spend more, I'm going to ask you where you want to cut. So, will Governor Pritzker hold his party accountable to the standard he set? Are the agencies he controls coming forward with cuts? And most importantly, what will he do if they increase spending even further against his directive? I'm a CPA. I am used to making difficult decisions and having a budget that is rooted in reality. Fuzzy math is not fiscal responsibility. The Democrats love to talk about their balanced budget, but fail to mention the billions in one-time revenues from borrowing and federal funding that bailed them out. While families across Illinois are struggling to make ends meet and are tightening their belts, the Illinois Democrats' spending spree sees no signs of slowing down. Democrats will keep spending tax dollars on pork projects for their districts to score them some political points and billions on illegal immigrants. Time and time again, House Republicans come to the table with real ideas, serious proposals on reining in spending, growing our economy, and saving taxpayers on their tax bills. But our ideas are ignored. That's not democracy. That's domination by a single party that's forgotten who they work for. The people of Illinois are tapped out. We cannot accept any tax increases. Our seniors are suffering under the weight of crushing property tax bills. It's hard for young families to afford housing, daycare, and utilities. And this budget and any other bill that comes out of the 104th General Assembly cannot include a tax increase. That is a message that resonates with people all across Illinois. I'd now like to introduce my colleague, Representative C.D. Davids-Meyer.
Move this up a little bit. Thank you, Leader Ellik, and I'm State Representative C.D. Davids-Meyer, and I represent the 100th District. All are part of 10 counties in west central Illinois. I serve as one of the co-chairs of the Commission on Government Forecasting and Accountability, which is a General Assembly's budgetary and fiscal watchdog, nonpartisan group that comes up with numbers. Earlier this spring, COGFA presented a revenue estimate for the upcoming fiscal year 2026, which was significantly less than the governor's estimate from February. As it currently stands, Illinois is looking at a $1.2 billion budget deficit for this coming fiscal year. The Democrats' solution to this budget is to raise more taxes. As the sponsor of House Bill 1456, which would end taxpayer-funded health care for illegal immigrants, I strongly urge the General Assembly to take up this bill and repeal this program, this horrible abuse of our taxpayer dollars. Hardworking Illinois citizens should not have to pay for benefits for those who have entered our country illegally. And our citizens will certainly be appalled if they are forced to pay more taxes again to pay for people that are here illegally. While progressive Democrats are demanding tax hikes for more wasteful spending, Governor Pritzker is spending his time stumping around the country for his political aspirations. Even worse, Pritzker is resorting to inflammatory, dangerous rhetoric in his attacks of President Trump and Republicans. Referring to President Trump in a speech in March, Pritzker said, "Bullies respond to one thing and one thing only, a punch in the face." During that same speech to the California LGBTQ convention, Pritzker said, I won't continue to advocate that we wage conventional political fights, when what we really need is to become street fighters. Pritzker calls for political unrest, and his wink and nod towards political violence didn't end there. Pritzker ramped up the rhetoric. First, he started his speech by saying, "It's time to fight everywhere and all at once." Then Pritzker crossed a line in calling for political violence when he said, "Never before in my life have I called for mass protest, for mobilization, for disruption, but I am now. These Republicans cannot know a moment of peace." I repeat that. These Republicans cannot know a moment of peace. What is he calling for? Governor Pritzker, your comments are appalling. You should apologize to all Republicans and frankly all Illinoisans for encouraging harassment and disruption as you focus on your White House goals. The hateful rhetoric, threats of violence, and the actual attacks that are sure to follow are on you and you alone. The governor should be spending his time working with us to finally come up with a balanced budget for this year rather than threatening to punch Republicans in the face. Governor Pritzker, please do the job you were elected to do and not the job that you desperately want in Washington, D.C.
Thanks for watching, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to our channel. And while you're at it, please leave us a comment. Thank you for watching.